Well, ladies and gentlemen, friends, rodeo fans, Western way of life, influencers, doesn't matter what you are, you know the name, you've seen the bronzes. Tony Chytka is joining us on our rodeo living legend. You can have a seat. You can have a seat. I know you don't like to stand very long. I know. Tony, where did you, I don't know this actually, but and a lot of people probably don't. Where did you grow up at? Tell us a little bit about your background as a child.
Okay, I grew up in Yankton County, went to a one-room schoolhouse, grade school, first through 8th grade, and lived on a little place outside of town, west end of town, and in our pasture along the highway, they had a rodeo arena along the Saddle Club. They used to put on rodeos there.
Yeah.
Casey Tidd did feature him and that type of thing. So it was a rural background with older siblings, and buck and burro was always in the tree in the yard and that type of thing.
One-room schoolhouses, there's not a whole lot of them left. They're kind of they're getting lesser and lesser every year, aren't they?
Well, there's not very many around, no.
No.
But, we were the last graduating class. There was about 10 kids in the whole school.
10 kids.
And then after our graduating class, then they started busing kids to town.
Into Yankton?
In Yankton.
Yeah, and that's where you went to high school?
Yep. And we'd have art class on Friday afternoons. So I was looking forward to that because that was about the only thing I was good at or thought I was. And then when I got to high school, we were fortunate enough to have art classes. And I took the art classes each year, and then my senior year we got introduced to sculpting through clay modeling. And then that just kind of kicked it off.
Yeah. But, well, I want to get to that, but let's talk about, you used to rodeo too, though.
Not much.
Yeah, yeah. Did you ride broncs?
I did that in college. In high school I did, but that was just kind of extracurricular activity.
Yeah.
Because I was on the team. But, I tried bulldog and all that too, just to try to get team points. But mainly I rode bareback horses and bulls.
Bareback horses and bulls. And you pro rodeoed later on?
Yeah, I come up to, like everybody else, the junior rodeos, the high school, and the amateur rodeos, and South Dakota Amateur Association bull rider in '73, and went to the first year of the Badlands circuit as runner-up. And then 1980 I was the champion Badlands circuit.
Really?
And then in college I was third in the nation.
Wow. And that was in bareback?
No, that was in the bull ride.
Bull ride. Okay.
Yeah.
What did you used to travel around with someone when you were going to pro rodeos and stuff?
My mom.
Your mom?
No, I just kidding.
Yeah. I was gonna say, man, I've never heard a bull rider taking his mom with him.
Well, actually, she did take my brother and I to Littleton, Colorado, to Little Britches Farm. So,
that counts. That counts. But so, what was some of your favorite places you got to go when you were riding bulls? Some of the rodeos around the country. What was some of or it might even be in South Dakota. What was some of your favorite places you got to go?
Well, there weren't too many of them because usually I got busted up at them. So there weren't very many memorable ones.
Yeah.
But I mean, Phoenix had a rodeo, indoor rodeo, but they don't have it anymore. But
sure.
It was rodeos they call it. It was in March, the first March. After freezing up here, all winter, they'd go down there, and it was pretty neat.
You start sweating.
Yeah, I mean, I'd never been there before, and it was pretty exciting.
Okay, so the sculpting. I mean, we've seen the bronzes. I mean, you see them. Flint Rasmussen has got some of them with the Coors barrel. I've seen those. I mean, they're all over. How did that? So you did clay sculpting in high school, correct? How did that start rolling? Did you just think that was what you were going to do the rest of your life?
Well, once I started doing the sculpting, I kind of fell into that 3D aspect of it, being able to lift that image off the paper, because everything up until then had been drawings. And being able to see the other side of it, I just got so caught up in that. So I knew I was going to major in art at college, and so I started out school close to home, which was pretty inexpensive because my brother-in-law was a football coach, and my sister, and then so I stayed in their basement and made it as inexpensive as I could, and I rodeo for college. Then I eventually transferred and came out to Black Hills,
Yeah.
majored in art, and rodeoed for the college.
At Black Hill State?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have the first clay sculpture you ever built?
Matter of fact, well, not the very first one,
Right.
but I do have like the second one.
What was it?
It's just kind of a bronc. But he
Oh.
kind of looks like a greyhound, but I mean, it was fired ceramic. See, when I started in high school, the medium you used was a pottery clay, which is a water-based clay, and everybody's throwing pots and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So then I was sitting there trying to make these figurines out of this wet clay, and then they'd have to dry out. But then you have to put it in a kiln to fire it.
Oh.
So the trick is with this clay stuff, if you don't have all the bubbles out of it and it ain't dry, it's going to blow up.
Really?
So I wasn't very popular with the other students because they got to put these in this big kiln, and then they'd fire it overnight, and then they'd cool down the next morning, they'd open the lid, and everything was just shattered in there. When the air expands inside the clay, it just explodes and goes all over the inside.
Right.
Breaks everybody else's.
Where does the story start when you start making like actual bronzes on your own? I mean, obviously in school and stuff you're doing this, but where does it start for afterwards?
Yeah, well, I kept doing it even when I was in college because it was an easy way for me to sell artwork.
Sure.
And I'd do these clay figurines, fire them, and then I'd build glass cases over them, and I'd sell them as one-on-ones. And Bill Houston at Wall Drug has some of the very first things I ever did down along glass case in a restaurant there.
Yeah.
And then I got to doing them with rodeos and doing them for awards. And one of the first years of Badlands Circuit Finals, they did them for the runner-up award.
Really?
But, you know, they were kind of unique because there was only one of them, but they were fragile. So then, you know, pottery's been around for 1,000 years. They find it in the ground, but I mean, it is breakable. So then, when I was going to college, Loveland, Colorado got started about that time with the foundries, casting foundries, and I was always interested in the casting process, and I was trying to pick up on it little by little, and I learned how to make my rubber molds, and studied up on the rest of the casting process, and made a few trips to Loveland, and before Deadwood started gambling, the old hotel on the lower end of town was the bus stop.
Right.
And when I was in college, I'd take my wax patterns, my wax sculptures, and I'd put them in a cooler and pack them with crushed paper and stuff, and take them down to the bus station in Deadwood, put them on the bus, and then they'd take it to Loveland. The bus would go to Loveland eventually. Well, when they get them down there in the foundry, you know, those waxes probably didn't make it anyway.
Right.
They were like in a bunch of pieces.
I see what my Amazon package looks like when I order it. I mean, yeah.
Well, sometimes I come back with a whole new piece because they put them together when they got them down there, and I mean, you know, I didn't even recognize them.
Right.
But I eventually kept, you know, doing the process, and after I got out of college, I went to Arizona for 3 winters and working using foundries down there in Tempe, and then I went out to Bozeman for a year and worked in a foundry there. And in '84, I came back and been doing my own casting ever since.
Just started your own. Wow. So, was the Badlands the first kind of rodeo that kind of had yours as an award? That was the first one ever?
Yeah, that pretty much started there because
Yeah.
I was competing, and then when the stock show started here, the very first one that I remember, when I was barely out of college, might have still been in college, I had this plexiglass case that I built with a light bulb in it, and I'd take it around to the indoor college rodeos, and I'd set it up in the lobbies and show my artwork. And first year that had it here, the only thing that was lit up was where you walked in to go to the rodeo at this original building.
Right.
And then I put the glass case outside those doors, and when you went out those doors, it was just dark because even though that was lit up, it hadn't even been done yet.
Right.
But then that's Jim Sutton started the bullfights.
Yeah.
The bullfights, and when that come on, he wanted to, well, maybe, you know, you make an award for these bullfights. And so he did that first year, and then Wrangler picked up on the bullfight. They kept wanting me to do those, and so they were competitions around the country. They'd have these bullfights, and I was doing those for each one of them. And at that time, I was still doing the clay one, but then after being around the foundries, I knew I had to get into that a little more.
Sure.
And finally, then they just started the World Championship bullfights, and they were still in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
So then we doing them in Oklahoma City, and then that program went on for 20 years. And I'd have a booth at the finals and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It just kind of went out.
So explain the difference between the clay and what were you saying, the casting of the other stuff? Is that totally different, or is it the same?
Well, the clay, actually, the starting out with the clay, the fired ceramic piece, you can use that for your initial model, and then if you want to cast that, what you do is make a flexible rubber mold off of that clay model.
Oh.
And use that for your pattern mold. That rubber mold you use, and you pour warm wax in it to get a wax duplicate off your model. Your model can be anything. It can
Right.
be, well, we're going to cast a pair of boots. I'm going to make a rubber mold off a pair of boots. Have a wax image of those boots, pour warm wax in that rubber mold, get a wax copy of that, and then actually cast those boots out of wax. So
wow.
It's done through the lost wax process. It's a casting.
Yeah.
In jewelry, they do it with centrifugal force. They'll have a wind-up arm, and then they'll put the metal in one end, and they'll let that arm go, and then push the metal through. Where this is lost wax process that I do, it's all done on gravity flow with the sprues and vents. The sprues carry the metal through the molds, and the vents let the air go back to the top. And just the pressure of the metal going through the mold forces it through all the different parts. You let that cool, and then you bust the ceramic shell off. Then you have to grind all those sprues off, weld the piece together, grind all the weld down, sandblast it clean, and there are different chemicals that are used on the surface of the bronze, which is called your patina. And if you leave a penny outside, the natural oxidation will turn green.
Right.
And there are different chemicals you can use to alter the colors, because the bronze is 95% copper.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So when I got all those ripped off of me a couple of years ago,
Yeah. I forgot about that.
They sold them by the pound, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That was easier than stealing wiring out of housing projects.
Yeah, I don't know if some of these people, obviously Tucker will know this, but tell people what happened in Las Vegas.
Well, the night before we were going to set up at the show, where I was staying in the parking lot there, it got broken into, and they stole all the pieces out of there. Went out there next morning, there were tote boxes thrown all over the place. And
how many pieces did they get?
There were 22 altogether.
Wow.
Different sizes, everything I had.
Yeah.
Well, luckily, Tucker and my brother Gary saved the day. They went around to local investors and people that bought my work and
so can we borrow this real quick? Yeah.
Whatever. They wrapped it the next day, so display.
So with because you made the Coors Man in the Can, bronze and stuff like that, how long from start to finish, just for that one in particular, how long from start to finish? I mean, did you have to draw all that out, or is that made, we kind of talked about it, you and Amy over there, but did they do it online, or how do you do it?
Oh, when we started that, there was no online, because we've been doing those since '95.
Right.
But what we did is, I did a model, and of course, Donna Keffler, she's from South Dakota, but she also went to college, and she was our rodeo manager secretary from college. I've known her a long time. There was kind of an in there.
Yeah.
But what I did was I took the model around and showed it to some of the bullfighters and stuff that I knew from Nebraska, close by, and then got their input, and then come up with the design for it. And then the first year that we featured, there's also a 3-foot version of that that's at the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame.
Oh yes, there is.
First year that they unveiled that, they had it at the Hard Rock Cafe, because that's where they were at during the finals. They had it there in the lobby of the Hard Rock. And then from there it went to the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. And then that's used every year for the Barrel Man of the Year for Coors. And then the next year, Wrangler come up with the Rodeo Announcer of the Year. And I started that the year after. So there's also a 3-foot version of that where there's a rodeo announcer mounted on a horse with a microphone. And then later on, that became the Clement Spadden Golden Mic Award.
Right. So when you start something, and because this was fascinating to me, like the design itself, how long does that take? I mean, because it's probably a lot of trial and error, I'm sure, on some of this stuff, especially back in the day. But like now, if someone came to you and said, "Hey, I would like a bronze of my family portrait," and they just hand you a picture, is that something you can go off of, or?
I like to have more than one picture because you're taking off a flat surface.
Yeah.
And you're working three-dimensionally, so it's hard to get the depth of a face or a person to really be able to tell. So I like different photographs, and I've done, guys riding bucking horses and that type of thing, commission work. So what I like to ask is if they just get me some different pictures of different positions, side views, that type of thing, and then try to get an all-around view of it, work the model up, and I'll send them a picture of the model or several pictures. They can tell me if I'm on the right track or I'm all wet or whatever, and yes or no, or that's usually where it starts.
Right. So like for the awards at the PRCA, when they give out, like you said, the Clem McSpadden, the Coors Mannequin, do you still, is this just the same mold you're using every time?
Yeah. It's the same one every time, and they're limited edition.
Right.
So then you go back to your rubber mold, you pour that wax again, sprue it up, put your ceramic shell on. That ceramic shell, the porcelain material, the reason they use it because it can withstand that bronze when you're pouring it into the mold, because you're pouring at 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit.
Right.
So, you got to have your safety stuff on, your fireproof heat gloves and shields, clothes and all that. But use those same molds. Do a couple Bermuda awards for the PRCA. This last year, Birch Brothers won that.
Yep.
And then Rodeo in Colorado.
Yeah.
And then we'll do the Donna.
Donna Keffler?
No, the Donna Barnes.
Barnes.
Anita Barnes.
Lifetime Achievement?
Yeah, Lifetime Achievement.
Yeah.
Award.
Yep. Okay.
So those are initially the ones now that I do.
Yeah. Brett, because you're a humble guy. You and I, we have a relationship that we're not always humble. I'm kidding. No, but you're a humble guy. Talk about all the awards that you have made for different things. I'm sure there's got to be tons of them.
I don't know about awards. I've worked with Dutch Unlimited. I've worked with the Elk Foundation.
Yeah.
I've done stuff for like North Dakota Hereford Association.
Not just rodeo stuff. Yeah.
No, I do. That's kind of what I know.
Right.
And I like to think that there's got to be some truth in it, what you're doing. And also like to think that I'm just kind of telling a story about my lifetime and how things have, just have changed in rodeo. Now, even with the vests and the helmets, and they put mechanical machines on bulls and buck 'em and all that stuff. And, it's changed a lot.
Yeah.
It still keeps changing. So, I just think that I could do that other stuff. It's not my deal, but I don't know much, and just realize I kind of concentrate.
Yeah. I bet there's do you get some weird, requests? Some weird things to build?
Oh, every once in a while. I can't think of any off the top of my head.
I bet there's some strange things, like, hey, will you do my dog? Lifetime. Life-size
like
pic-
that.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
How hard is it? A lot of them are, that tall. How hard is it when they get really big?
Well, I have to handle the molds myself and that kind of thing, so I have to break them down a little bit.
Okay.
I finished a piece they unveiled. I had it up in North Dakota. At Mandan, they built a new arena up there.
Right.
And they kind of wanted to feature the burger operation with the PBR bulls and that type of thing. That Mandan, they built this arena, the Pelkey arena there.
Oh, yeah.
They just started last year. And out front, there's a half-life size of Little Yellow Jacket, which is a burger bull that was Bull of the Year and a PBR and all that kind of stuff. And no rider or anything, they just wanted that image of that bull, so that it's half-life size. So what you have to do is you have to break it down a little bit more. It's like a three-dimensional puzzle, because you bisection it off and you have a mold of different parts of it, and then you get wax copies of those, and then you weld all those together. So you end up with a hollow piece.
Sure.
But then you'll have a mold with just the legs in it, you have a mold with just a hump in it, you have a mold with just the horns, that type of thing. So you might have 30-some molds.
Right. So you have to weld that on site then, when it gets there?
Well, in the shop I start welding it together, putting it together, and build it up from there, and then get the base all welded together. because the base will probably be maybe 10 different open face molds.
Sure.
Those got to be all put together. And for every weld, there's a grinding project.
Nice.
And so, it's,
Have you ever made Tucker run the grinder?
no, not too much.
No.
I just get him to help me pour metal on. He's pretty good to have on the other side.
yeah. He's a man amongst boys.
Yeah.
Talk about your kids a little bit, because you've got two. You've got a daughter and a son.
Yep.
Your favorite son and favorite daughter.
Yep.
Yep.
That way they don't fight that way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
One
So
or the
talk
other.
about them a little bit.
Well, Tucker, he graduated college and he works over at Scott Peterson Motors, which is Waring Motors now. But
Yeah.
he rodeoed in high school and college, kind of like everybody else. And he was the national student president for college, and which was pretty neat, I think. Don't you guys
No.
say that?
Not at all.
Yeah,
Which is wild, because our time at the Beacon we've spent together was not very presidential of you. But go on.
Well, and our daughter Haley, she's about 4 years older than him, 5 years older. And
Yeah.
she's now just her second year of law school. She kind of had to do her thing and went here and there. And when she decided to go back to school, she's been a student ever since. And she'll be graduating law school in Chicago.
Wow.
So I get my own room.
Yeah. Do you ever go out to Chicago and visit her?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Has there been other sports that you've gotten to build a bronze for, then besides just like rodeo? And I mean, is there anything like?
Well, yeah, I did like wrestlers,
Oh wow.
track,
Yeah.
a little bit, some football stuff.
Yeah.
I cast a pair of hockey skates for some folks up in North
Sure.
Dakota. And yeah, I've done different things.
Yeah. How many orders do you do in a year?
I've never kept track. I mean, I worked with Ducks Unlimited for 4 years, and that one year we did 100. I did 100 pieces just
Wow.
of that initial design. And what they did was they used them in their auction, like in the Central Flyway. And they
Yeah,
had
yeah.
benefit auctions, and that's what they used them for, was to raise money for Ducks Unlimited. And so I never really keep track. And right now I'm doing some stuff for the ABBI, which is
Yep.
takeoff of the PBR.
American
ABBI,
Buck and
American
Bulls.
Buck and Bull
Yep.
Incorporated.
Yep.
So I'm going to be doing 20 for them orders. And
Wow.
so it just kind of, you never know.
It just depends. And do you, when you do 20 of those orders, do you do all 20 of them at once, or do you kind of like, hey, I got one done, here's one, I'll do another one, here's another, or is it?
It just kind of depends on the order. You know, if they need so many, what I'll do is my crucible holds about 100 to 120 pounds of metal at a time. So I can get probably 4 to 6 of those
Wow.
out of one pour. But then I might pour 3 times while you have everything hot.
Yeah.
You'll go and reload it again, and they come in 20-pound bars, ingots, silicon bronze, and they're all pre-measured. I don't melt doorknobs or nothing
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
It's all
So if your
clean
doorknob
metal.
is missing, this guy took it. Yeah. Yeah.
It's all clean metal stuff.
Right.
That way it's easier to weld. And it's silicon bronze, so your rod that you weld with, use a Heliart,
Yeah.
tungsten, and then the rod is also silicon bronze, so that the weld doesn't show up.
Sure.
If you was to use silver solder or something like that, then your patina is going to show up under that weld.
Gotcha.
And you can get by using some of the metal over. You clean the metal with the sandblaster, and you can mix it with new metal, but you got to be careful, because every time you pour, you burn up alloys in your metal, and then pretty soon all you have is it turns red, and that's all copper.
Really? Where do you get all that from?
A lot of trial and error.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's got to be. So does it come straight out of like a mine, or is there retailers for it? I mean,
No, Atlas Metals in Denver is where I get,
okay.
and it comes in 20-pound ingots. It's all pre-measured,
Yeah.
and I use one that's called 2541. It's 25% bronze, 4% silica, and 1% tin.
Okay.
And then your brass is a lead alloy.
Wow. And so does that come like on a pallet? Do you get a bunch of those 20-pound
Depends
deals?
how much you can afford.
Right.
It's kind of, yeah, but you can get it freighted in Rapid on a pallet. You know, the freight guys bring it up.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you can run down to Denver and get
Yeah.
it too.
Yeah. And so when people are getting a bronze, I mean, a big part of what they're paid for is that clean metal.
Well, yeah, you want clean metal because it's easier to work with, easier to pour,
Yeah.
easier to weld all the way around. And you don't want, a lot of junk in there because it's really tough. You go through all that trouble of making that pattern, the spruing it up and all that, and then you pour the metal in and it doesn't come out, and then you got to turn around, you got to go all the way back to that initial step.
Right.
So even if you make a bad mold in that ceramic shell, if you don't let things dry out and make sure you do it evenly, and the temperature has to stay the same, you can't fluctuate the temperature because the wax will expand and contract inside your ceramic shell. That damages the mold, so then when you go and flash fire that, burn the wax out, you don't see the crack in the shell. You go and pour your molten metal in there, and then you put your ceramic shell in a sand pit to hold it upright.
Right.
You start pouring that metal in there, and it's hot, and it runs just like water, and the sand starts to raise, you're screwed up. And then you go back and start all over.
So if someone wants, I mean, like I said, bronze their dog or something like that, they just get a hold of you and send you a few pictures, and you'll say it'll be done in 2 to 4 days?
Well, I won't just do it like that, but I'll
Yeah.
try to work something out, and what I'll do is I'll do a model, work up a model.
Yeah.
It's like two-dimensional, they just do a sketch.
Yeah.
But some people do sketches, but I like to do the actual model because people can actually see it and they can turn it around because that's what it's going to be.
And that's made out of clay?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Sculpture clay.
Yeah.
So I like to do that and then go back and forth with them and see if we can get it close.
Yeah.
And then it has to be bigger, and then you size it up from there.
Right. And do you give the models to the people as well, or?
I haven't really because you use the clay
Yeah.
over and over. It's some of the clays are a wax base, and then some of the clays are an oil base. So it just kind of depends on what I'm working on. But they don't dry out. They're not like a greenware what they use for pottery. That's water based, it's kind of chalky, but that's to be fired.
Wow.
They're just used for modeling.
Okay. I told you I'd get 20 minutes out of you. We're already at 25. I told you. Yeah. No. This is called rapid fire questions with Garrison Allen, okay? I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions. Shout out to my friend Brad Narducci that's listening right now. But what is your favorite food? If you had one meal left, what would you eat?
I like steaks.
Steaks? Nothing with it? You're just having a steak?
Potatoes.
Okay. All right. What's your favorite movie you've ever seen?
Oh, probably 8 seconds.
8 seconds. Okay. Who is your favorite singer of all time?
All time.
Yeah.
I'm kind of partial to George Strait, I guess.
Okay. Who is your favorite kid? No, you don't have to answer that one. I'm kidding. What's your most favorite creation you've ever made?
Well, you're sitting right there.
No, not. Wow. That was the biggest compliment I've ever seen Tucker get. No, besides Tucker, what's your...
I like to say I haven't made it yet.
You haven't made it yet. What's your least favorite one that you made?
It's in a pile in a bucket.
Okay. Do you ever get to an end of one? You're like, man, that is awful.
You can sandblast it off and throw it back in and melt it back down again and add it to something else.
You've done that before.
Oh yeah.
How many? I'm just fascinated. Can I come to your shop and check it out?
Well, it's referred to as backyard casting,
Oh.
but mine's kind of like barnyard casting because there's probably you got to dodge a chip or two, and it's not real.
And all
It
your
ain't better homes and gardens. Let me put it that way.
I mean, the best part is, and I think for a lot of consumers, all your stuff is made right in South Dakota. I mean, it's made. You make every part of it, the molds, everything.
The only thing I don't make are the brass plates.
Yeah.
But the wood bases, black walnut, I get that out of mills in Iowa. And I do my own casting, my own welding.
Is there ever like a time where you'll be sitting there and you're like, man, I just want to make something. You don't even have an order. You just make something. Just try something new, or is it all? I mean, now.
Oh no, I don't just do commission work. I do freelance. I mean, stuff I've been wanting to do, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And then you sell that stuff, and like over at your booth, they can come over and buy it.
Yep. Sometimes you just kind of goes in here and comes out here.
The wheels start turning. Is it ever like you see a picture and you're like, I'm gonna make bronze of that?
Well, if it's sometimes that's where your sketching comes in, because
Yeah.
if you're driving or something like that, and all of a sudden you start thinking about something, and I'll forget. 'Cause my mind getting be like a clutch; it's just slipping all the time. But, so what I do is I'll sketch something down,
Yeah.
but then I got to keep looking at it.
Do you
'cause
pull
I'll forget
over
what the
first, or are you
sketch
still
is.
driving?
No, I'll just.
Okay.
That's why I don't know what it is when I get there, because I can't tell what it is.
Right.
So I got to keep looking at it and make sure I know what it is. But
Sure.
yeah, my sketches aren't real good.
And you're not really a techie guy. You just showed me your cell phone, and I think I had that in 8th grade, might be. But where can people
People can still write me letters, and I do answer my telephone, and that's far enough.
I'm gonna
for
write
me.
you a letter, I think. Just to
People
say
are
hi.
impressed when you still write letters to people.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, but how do they find out more? You have a website,
Yep.
and is it TR Chytka Bronze?
Yep.
trkytkabronze.com. I just went off that. I didn't even know that. No, I did a little. So that's where they can find you. They can email you, anything like that. That's how they can get a hold of you.
That's my wife's email, but yeah.
Okay. She'll get a hold of him unless she's mad at him and you have to sleep on the couch, which I figure you do a lot. But no, and you're all over at trade shows. I mean, Las Vegas. You're here at Rodeo Rapid City. How long have you been coming to Rodeo Rapid City with your booth?
I guess pretty much since I started, because
Yeah.
I was still competing when I was showing the shows that moved around,
Yeah.
as it got added onto. I mean, it used to be in a stairwell, over on the other side, but then they kept adding on, so it kept moving around. And then I didn't come back for a year or two, and then Sutton started this here, so I thought, oh, that's more of my speed,
Yeah,
more
yeah.
my style. So we get a bunch of old cronies down there, and we visit and stuff like that, so I'm a little more comfortable with that.
Yeah. And where will you go next? Set up a booth at? Do you have another show or something that people can
Just
come check
locally, in the summer, I've been doing a little weekend show there in the middle of June at Hill City.
out? Sure.
And, that probably won't go too far for a while.
Yeah.
Just gonna
Yeah.
try to get work done.
My-
Start working on Vegas.
One of my favorite pieces that you get to do is your bronze at Deadwood. And explain to people what the Tony Chytka bronze at Deadwood is for the bronc riding, correct?
Well, that was the TC Holloway.
The TC
Award.
Holloway, yeah.
Yeah.
Explain to them what that is.
Well, TC, of course, was a finalist, national finalist, bronc rider, and he was killed in a car wreck. And that the Holloway family got a hold of me, and they wanted to start an award in his honor. And what that is Cowboy's got to win that award. A bronc rider has to win that rodeo 3 times, and then he can take one of them sculptures home.
Right.
And it's on display at the museum there at the Days of 76.
Yeah.
So every year the recipients, the winners, get their name added to the base of that sculpture.
Right.
And then after 3 years, they get one of those. If they win it 3 times, they get one.
How many has someone won it?
There's been three I think so far.
3 awards.
Yeah.
And do you take that award and then add their names on, or is that
Yeah, I got a gal lady that makes my plates there, Val, and I can call her up. And she's done it so long now, she knows how to. She keeps track of all the plates I've ever done.
Right.
She's so good at it because I wouldn't have been able to do
Right.
it. But I'd call her up and say, I need this plate, this, and she'll, they do it
Awesome.
on the computer and stuff.
Okay, last question. If there are some young artists, and it doesn't have to be making bronzes, sculptures, whatever, but young artists, give them one piece of advice how to keep growing and get to a point where, I mean, you're a big deal. I know you don't like to think it, but you're a big deal in professional rodeo, and you really are a legend. But give them one piece of advice as they grow their career and start.
You just don't make work out of it.
Yeah.
You gotta love what you're doing.
Yeah.
Don't make work out of it.
If it's fun,
Do
it's
it.
not work. Yeah, absolutely. Well, everybody, this is Tony Chytka, my friend. Well, my dad's friend, really. But no, he's my friend as well. But Tony, thank you for coming on.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.